This Sunday. Every Sunday, side by side at the microphone, from the green light to the speed trap, Chris Switzer and Ray Carino calls them as they sees them, and you better believe them. Here, relevant news, biased opinions, and outright bullshit regarding every aspect of automotive culture. Gasp at mechanical trickery never before revealed over FCC-regulated airwaves. Thrill to the explosive tension as Chris and Ray cuss each other down the track and barrel roll across the finish line, laughing at certain disaster as they shake hands with the devil. All that and much more this Sunday at high noon on the Motormouth Radio Hour. Call in and speak live with the Wizards of Speed and live feed, Chris Switzer and Ray Carino. Bring the whole family. Kids under 12 get in free. Every Sunday at noon on WHPC. Take the Long Island Expressway to the Meadowbrook Parkway and look for the sign saying no parking on the expressway and no express service on the parkway. Go right on Highway 24 to Garden City. $2 all-day parking includes pit pass. Sunday!
Give me fuel, give me fire, give me that which I desire.
All right, we're rocking. It's Sunday afternoon. Motormouth Radio, Long Island's only automotive talk show with your hosts, Ray Guarino and not Chris Switzer. Filling in for Chris, who's on a Florida junket, is MatcoMan Brian. Brian, you with us?
I'm here. Hey, guys, what's going on?
All right, and we have a special guest in the studio today. We have none other than one of our new favorite YouTube phenoms, wrenching with Kenny. Kenny, and she's hiding from the camera, but we have Kenny's daughter in the studio, too. We snuck her in. And I figured we'd open it up with a little Metallica. Exactly. So, now that we got that out of the way.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Kenny, it's a pleasure to have you in. As people don't know, well, they do know because I talk about it all the time. And we just mentioned, I watch YouTube like TV. That is TV for me. So when you watch certain contents, other channels that would fit with your liking kind of pop up.
Yes.
You know, so I don't get many. There are a few tool things, but not as many as I'd like. But there were some car repair, and that's where you came in. And I said, "Hey, who is this guy?" And fast forward to today, you're in the studio, and we're going to talk cars.
Yes, we are.
So,
yeah, I came up to visit my mom, and my kids.
Excellent. That's good. Yeah, that's because now you're out of state, and we don't always get to get our friends like Brian. Been friends with Brian for a while, but he hasn't been in the studio yet. We haven't been able to lay hands on each other for that stuff yet. So it doesn't always work. But in this age now, we can do it this way. We can do it virtually. We can do it with the computer, which is great. But it's always nice when you get to meet people and have them in the studio. So
yes, it is, definitely.
So you've been how long have you been into cars?
Since I was a child.
Yep. I think we all qualify for that one.
As a little kid, I used to look at the car's headlights coming down the road and try to figure out what car it was, and which was weird because my parents were never into cars.
Oh, okay. All right.
I mean, my dad could fix cars, but his own cars, but he was never into cars.
Okay. It's funny how stuff jumps a generation, sometimes, or two generations.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, well, Brian, you were in the same boat, right? I mean, you were kind of a self-proclaimed...
Yeah, that's, like I said, it's kind of funny because, my dad wasn't into cars or really anybody in the family that way. And that's all I've done since I could take something apart and try to figure out how to put it back together. So it's kind of weird how that works.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you went the other route. You had your dealership time. So that was certainly, hardcore. I mean, or dealership. I never worked in a dealership, and not that I think I could have probably adapted pretty well.
It definitely has its ups and downs. I mean,
yeah,
it was a good experience.
Yeah,
for 21 years.
That's right. You're a dealership guy too, but I'd have to be in the dealership. Like now, when I go into a shop and I say, I couldn't work in the shop. I couldn't even, I don't want to drop my car off in the shop.
Yep.
I would be like the good wrench guy. I want like the metal bench, and I want to, I work neat. It's like it's what I'm trying to get at. So, That would have been my dealership model.
I don't know about you, Kenny, but for me, I was in a dealership for over 20 years, but there was a lot of politics, and there were people that either you played the game or you didn't play the game.
Yes.
And unfortunately, that's the way it was in that environment. And as long as you were good at what you did, they kind of left you alone because you were the moneymaker. Yeah. And some guys can handle it and some guys can't. And it's, like I said, I saw a lot of people come and go during that time period.
Yeah, it became a revolving door. You'd see, always had those people that were the favorites and that got fed. And then, you know what I'm talking about. And then you had those guys like us that just did our job and we did it well. And we always got the problem cars. So,
yeah.
And,
The one thing about the dealer, you always had to play that you didn't know what you knew, because if you knew what you knew, you got the hardest stuff instead of the gravy. But it all works out, and actually, for your case, it builds you into doing what you do now. Mm-hmm. Gives you throws a lot of stuff at you. You have a lot of learning, and then you know how to fix a car. And some people bring it to you and say, "Hey, I've had it to 7 other guys, and what's wrong?"
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Right.
I mean, it was a great experience. I wouldn't pass it up for the world. But, when your time comes, and I was done.
Yep. Kenny, I want to throw something out to you that I've yelled it at the TV screen, but you didn't hear me when I said it. We all deal with this, where we get parts to put on the car and we buy new parts. So I think Brian knows where I'm going, because through the other show, the Play and Traffic show we do, everybody's kind of picked up on this. It was something that I'll show you. It was something that actually Joe, my last co-host Joe, had. He championed it. Let me bring it over here. I'll just play it, and you'll hear Joe say it.
Guys, we all know what new spells.
Never, ever work.
That's right.
So, and you've said it many times, like, this is a new part, and you've had trouble with new parts.
Yeah.
So now, if you want to keep that rolling on, you can spread it through your part of the country, because everybody else has adopted it, right, Brian? It's kind of it's been our catch-all.
I've used it a lot of times when I walk into shops and they said, "Hey, we put this new part on and we still have the same problem." And I say, "Well, you know what new stands for?" Yeah. And they just kind of give me that look, and they're like, "Wow, that's right." So,
and like, yeah, I never thought of that. Like, well, yeah, right. And now more than ever, I've seen trouble with new stuff. Just either build quality, like I don't know who they're sending this out to, or
starters and alternators have been horrific lately.
Yeah.
I made a video. I did the alternator on my daughter's Hyundai.
Right.
And I had to do it twice.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And I mentioned that to Brian. I mentioned it to somebody else. And I was wondering, I want to see follow up on that. Like, is that, I guess it's a thing with those cars, but why? Why? What's going on with the rebuilds, or, the remans, as we call them? What's the end of that story? That's crazy.
I don't know. I've been trying to get new. Anytime I can, I try to get new. And that alternator, the first one, was a new.
Right.
It wasn't even a reman. So what was the problem? Who knows?
Yeah, the one that was in the car, oil had leaked on it, right, from the oil fill. I remember seeing that. And then, that was a good video, because it showed the diagnostics involved. It wasn't just, let's just change the parts, load the parts cannon and fire it. Let's find out why.
Yeah, figure out what's going on.
Yeah, which is really that's more than half the battle. If you want to find out why, or talk to Kenny and Brian, Kenny or Brian, or even if you want to yell at me, you can give us a call at 516-572-7440. Check us out on social media, where we post stuff that we get involved with pretty much all the time. It's Motormouth Radio on the web, which is kind of stagnant right now. We haven't updated the website, but on X, which is Twitter, and Facebook, and on Instagram, it's real_Motormouth Radio. And I like Instagram because you can put, and Facebook, you can put like 10 pictures up.
Right.
I don't like being limited to 4. I can't be in the constraints of 4 pictures. It just doesn't work for me.
I know how to use Facebook. That's about it.
See, I use Instagram, and then there's a little button you can click that says upload, because it's the same company.
Right.
Upload to Facebook. I said, that's how I want to do it.
Okay.
So, give us a call. Talk with the guys. There was also another funny video. Well, it wasn't funny for you at the time, I'm sure, Kenny, but how you were driving your daughter's car and got stuck with a flat tire.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I was stuck on the side of I-85 there in North Carolina. Got a flat. I picked up something. I don't know what it was, but I got a flat almost instantly. Sure enough, the spare was there. The jack was there. Yeah. No lug wrench. So it's like, it's something you don't think about. It's just like, so that's my big thing now is make sure you have everything you're supposed to have because you never know when you're going to get stuck.
Yeah.
It was a fluke, but it happened.
And you had just been stuck recently with that car, right? Right before that, there was an issue.
That was the one with the alternator.
That was the alternator,
same
right.
car with the alternator.
Yeah.
I was driving it around that day.
Yeah.
So
that was last week. I started with Chris about, it's that pumpkin spice season. So that means we need to start getting the car ready for winter while it's still nice. So you're not out there in 6 inches of snow deciding if everything is good, at least plan ahead, try to be a Boy Scout, I guess, or a Girl Scout. It depends on.
Yep,
but,
exactly.
Same thing happened to me, Kenny, there with my daughter's car. We had picked one up used, driving around, got a flat tire, pulled off the side of the road saying I could change it. And there was no lug wrench in it, or lug nut, no lug wrench, and it was just like, these are things that we just don't think about until we need it. And
you got to say, where does it go? Like, did somebody change a flat and then like fling it off the side of the road? Like, where did it go?
The only thing I can think of is because between my daughters down there's 6 grandkids. So somebody was probably playing in a car one day, took it out, and it disappeared.
Yeah, well, it went somewhere, right? It went somewhere.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Or you had they got it all back together. They're so much in a hurry, and they just drive off.
Yeah, because how many times have you seen a jack or a lug wrench on the side of the road? I've seen it.
Okay.
I've seen it several times.
Okay. The other thing that I've seen on my TV, which is kind of funny, Brian, do you have any things that really tick you off, modifications that are done in cars that guys do, aftermarket modifications?
Ray, we only have an hour.
I know.
Mean, don't put me on the spot like this.
Well, just pick the biggest one.
Yeah. I don't even know where to start on
because I know Kenny has one.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear Kenny's.
The squat. The Carolina squat.
Oh, see, I was going to say a cold air intake.
Oh, well, that too, but the Carolina
I mean, you've railed about those the cold air intakes.
I went off on those for a little while.
Yeah.
Because they don't do nothing for the most part.
Right. But the squat, that's stupidity. I mean, that's when they drop the back of the truck and raise the front.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, that's unsafe.
Yeah, you can't see.
It's unsafe.
So I just don't understand the appeal behind it.
I'll tell you the truth. One of the things that's hopefully in my future, I have another car build in me, and I want to build a gasser.
Okay.
But I'm not going to do a sky-high gasser. It's going to be just like, a kind of a raised. So, and that's the same thing, like being able to see. But if I have to, I'll cut a hole in the floor. I'll just look straight out. There you go, Brian. There you go.
There you go.
Cyclone, yeah.
But a
Very
gasser's
cool.
quite different because most of the time the gassers are more level than anything else.
Yes.
I mean, I see these things down in North Carolina where the rear bumper is 3 inches off the ground and there's 5 feet under the front bumper.
One of the times, like people know my daughter is down there and we're thinking about relocating. And one of the trips down, I was just taking pictures as I'm driving of regular cars on the road, and a truck with a tailgate that's not a tailgate. The bed was like half disconnected or half dropped. The straps holding it on. I'm like, how do these people drive with these vehicles like this? It's.
South Carolina doesn't even have state inspection.
I know, and that's even scarier. Yeah. When I was down there, I have a niece down there, and years ago when we were down there, I came back from I think we went out to get something to eat. And I came back and said, "Hey, I'm seeing a lot of old cars on the road, like 60s Chevys and early 70s, and they're not classic cars. These aren't cars that guys are taking to a meet. These are just daily drivers. But what's with that?" And they tell me, "Oh yeah, Uncle, there's no inspection. So at a certain age, you just drive whatever you want." Yeah. I'm like, "Oh, that's comforting."
Yeah.
Knowing how we used
even if they do have a state inspection, it's they just want the $15 and you just drive it in one door and out the other, and nothing really gets fixed or looked at.
Yeah.
So
Brian is almost as regulated as we are here in New York, being in Maryland.
Oh, Yeah, it's terrible. And, you talk about that, but, my whole thing is when somebody has about 27 different lights on a car,
Yes.
they have different colors, they have spotlights, they have a floodlight. I mean, we're just talking regular cars. We're not talking anything out. And they blind you driving down the road or when they get behind you, but, they want to pull you over because I have a LED flashers on my truck because it's not DOT equipped. You know what I'm saying?
What?
So
I'll tell you what. I blame your favorite store for that. I blame Harbor Freight because everybody's buying those those 30-inch LED bars, the blazing light. Yeah.
I love Harbor Freight.
I know you do. I know. And I got to tell you something, Brian. I know I've told you this. One of the things that endeared me to Kenny was watching his videos early on. I saw that he knew how to move around a car, and anybody who works on cars and doesn't get hurt knows what I mean. There's just like a body language with the car that somebody who knows how to work on them has. And then I saw he used good tools. And I said, okay, this guy is bona fide in my book. But Brian has the best story in the world about Harbor Freight. I got to show you something. I got to show you one of the best tools that I got, and I just got it from Brian just recently. There's a custom.
Wow.
That's out of the custom shop. Now, that doesn't exist in a lot of places. Brian, are we at liberty to talk about this?
Oh, yeah, that's the 1/4-inch ratchet, but with a 3/8 head stuck in it.
That's cool.
But in a length that's long enough to be dangerous to somebody who doesn't know how to
use it.
Exactly.
Yep.
So apparently there's a very short list of people who get to actually order these things.
Really?
I got on it. Well, yeah, because, you know how to use it or you don't.
I'm going to have to talk to you about this, Brian.
Like I said, I swap out the heads, and that way, you want that extra length, that reach, and you want, like I said, with the 3/8, but as long as you're not trying to, take a tire off with it because of that, it'll last and work. And
Brian, maybe like a 4-inch
like I said,
one, too.
I only build a few of those.
Which is nice because in a tight spot where you don't have the room, now you have a thinner ratchet. And, working on newer cars now, everything has gotten tighter and smaller.
Yep.
And, I complained to Brian about that. We used to have one set of Allen drivers. Well, then you had to get the longer ones. Now you had to get the shorter ones. Now you had to get the stubby ones. Now you need the micro stubby ones. Like, how many sets do I have to buy?
And then you got to get the ones that ball end.
And the ball end is great.
Yep.
Yeah. So, Brian, tell the listeners who haven't heard it, but tell Kenny about your Harbor Freight prowess.
My Harbor Freight, I stop by almost weekly with my collection sheet and route and look for people that owe me money.
Okay.
At the store, because they can't go onto a truck because they'll get tagged, because they know that that distributor will know that he owes somebody money.
Right. And
this way they still need tools, so I go hang out a little bit in the parking lot and hunt down the guys that owe me money. That's one thing I like about the Harbor Freight.
And Brian has been in his personal vehicle at Harbor Freight on the phone with us doing the show, and he'd say, "Oh, hold on, I got to go. I'll call you back." Because he spotted somebody, and he's about your size, Kenny, and he just walks up on these guys and like, "Hey, I haven't seen you in a while. Like,
where's my money?"
It's the old Jesse James with the dollar sign, "Pay me." But Brian has great luck. They actually pay him.
That's the hard part about his business too, is because you got to give people credit. I mean, you don't have to, but it's kind of like a given that's what you do.
Right.
So, but I'm sure you can kind of read a lot of people too and know, like, okay, I can trust this one. This one I don't know so much about.
Over the 20 years with this, you learn to read people real quick.
Yes. Yep.
So. But
so now my daughter,
it has its good and bad.
Now my daughter and wife have Brian's number in their phone because they just bought me a birthday present. Yeah, tell me, he knows what I need, and they contact him directly.
Well, I'm going to need this ratchet. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, isn't that cool?
That's cool. That is
cool.
Really cool.
It's and like with the tools. We all have, I mean, we could talk about this ad nauseum. We all have, I was looking through my toolbox just the other day, talking to my buddy Kevin, just about ratchets, and said, the original ratchets, my original Snap-on ratchets were like, I don't know, 20 teeth?
Yeah.
So now they're 120 teeth.
Yep.
So I actually brought a bunch out and showed him, the linears. I have some old Protos. It's like click, click. It sounds like a safe, like you're trying to crack a safe.
Yeah, you can go almost a full quarter turn before it clicks.
Yeah. So the technology has really increased to help the technician / mechanic. I don't think that's a bad word, by the way. A lot of people say, don't say mechanic, he's an auto technician. Like, no, everybody is not an auto technician.
No.
I argue that way.
I don't care what people call me. You can call me a grease monkey. I don't care.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Just pay me.
Yeah, pay me. You want it fixed? I'll fix it for you.
Exactly. Exactly. So, with that in mind, it looks like we have a call. So let's go to the phones, go to the phone and say, hi, you're on with the Motor Mouths, Kenny and Brian.
Gentlemen,
and Ray.
hey, Ray, how are you?
Very good. What's happening?
I got a couple questions for you.
Okay.
So how was your show? What was the outstanding car at your show last week up at Whitestone?
There was the Cadena Cup Award, which was it was an Eleanor reproduction, which was absolutely stunning.
Okay.
I went to the only car show of the year that I'll actually attend with my car. It's my friend's show. I did garner what I consider probably the best trophy in the show, and it was a People's Choice Award.
Okay.
Because I believe if the guy's coming in and the car guy's coming in like your car, that's
a hit.
That's a hit, and I actually got one of those. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. So it was great. Good time.
Love hearing that. And so I had another question for your guests, actually. Two of your guests, Brian and the other gentleman. I forgot his name. What was his name, John?
Kenny.
I'm Kenny.
Kenny. Okay. They were both dealership guys, right?
Yes.
All right. So my question to you is, last week I read a piece in Newsday about the technology, about conversations can be heard inside your vehicle. Now, some of my most private conversations, professionally and socially, have been in the confines of a car.
Mm-hmm.
So, what's the deal with these manufacturers with the technology of listening to conversations in cars? Because there's a microphone or two in the car.
Yep, in a newer cars there is.
That's something that we talk about as telemetrics and what the range is. And you have OnStar, where if you're if you're disabled, that will send it'll send the information and you can communicate without you even asking to do it. So I know where you're going, Bob. It's
how do you control it?
I don't
know if you can.
Right.
Exactly.
Well,
and
you carry a phone, and that's the worst thing in the world, because whatever I talk about on the phone, and the phone, the phone's not even on, but whatever I talk about, or I have a customer ask me about something, it's always kind of bizarre how it shows up on my search.
Yep. Isn't it? I know. My wife and I talk about that all the time. Like, hey, we were just talking about this. Why is it on TV?
If you want to have a private conversation, you need a pre-75 car.
Right.
Well, right, and that is horribly. Think about what we've said to family members and to our other professionals in our car.
Yeah. And think about things that you've said as a joke that may not be taken as a joke.
The things we used to be able to say, and everybody say, "Oh yeah, haha." Now,
yeah,
oh yeah, definitely.
Oh, I do this, I do that, but everybody knows you're full of it.
Yep.
Yeah. And I thank you for sharing that conversation with me. And lastly, so I've been reading the GM Authority for the last year or so, whatever.
Uh-huh.
And I'm a union person. I've been through negotiations. And they're telling us that these workers are horribly underpaid. Who can possibly ask for a 40% raise over 4 or 5 years? Who does that?
UAW. Yeah, I know that's kind of ballsy. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But their contention. What I read, Bob, was their contention was that the brass, the bigwigs, are making all this money off of our backs, so we want more of it. Which we've all said that. Listen, when you work for a boss, the boss makes more than you. He's the boss. Yeah. You want the responsibility. So there's that argument could go on. And UAW guys do pretty well.
Yeah, from what I understand,
it's a good union.
So. I agree, and now look what happens. We have 30-plus providers shut down because these guys want 40% over 4 or 5 years. They want a 4-day work week. I have a 6-day work week. I work doubles all the time.
Yeah. Well, in different professions, not getting into the specifics, different professions, kind of lend themselves to that. Others are just 9 to 5, 5 days. I always worked 6 days. I always worked, even at another shop, I always worked a half a day on Saturday.
You work 6 days and then at home.
Well, forget it.
Right. And when isn't our Mako guy picking up a phone? When aren't you picking up a phone?
Right. Oh, Brian does.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's Matco, not Mako. He doesn't paint.
Pardon me. But
I know what you mean. I know you're right. And it's almost like a 24/7. Well, then again, on the other hand, Brian runs his credit cards at 3 a.m. just so he can make sure he gets the payment from the guys. Yeah. So that's another great story. But yeah, no, I know.
Well,
Bob.
I'm sorry I gave you guys so many gripes. So the Suburban line is shut down, and the Chevrolet Camaro line is shut down.
Right.
And what do I'm going to have to look for something now. Not that I was going to do it immediately, but it's timing is everything on a new car purchase.
Yeah.
So
that's true.
Yep. I'm going to have to look someplace else now.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what to tell you.
Well, keep us in touch. Let us know what you're thinking, Bob.
Great program, great guests. Have a lovely week, guys.
All right, you too.
Thanks, Bob. All right. So that was our good old friend Bob. Yeah, it's there's so much. You talk about. I've always talked about telemetrics, and now we're starting to see it where cars from the late 80s, 90s are coming up for restoration. Mm-hmm. And if that car sat for 20 years, and we've been talking about it on this show for 15 years, will it be able to be restored? And it all comes down to the electronics, the modules, and that, that part of it, the ECM, and are those parts going to be reproduced if needed? Sensors, and now I think we're still okay with a lot of that stuff. But moving forward, we can still pick up a 55 Chevy and put it on the road. I don't think you're going to be able to do that with a 96, Mustang in the year 2050. I don't know.
I know somebody that's rebuilding a Buick Riata.
Oh, Riata, nice car.
Yeah. And he needs the not the heads-up display, the display that has the temperature control and radio, like that whole assembly there.
Right.
Where do you find one?
No, another Riata.
Yeah, that's what you got to do.
Yeah.
And hopefully it's not bad. And like I said, of course, I've been away from the dealership for 20 years. And even back then, I can't tell you how many relays or circuit boards at the back of dashes that we had to resolder because the parts just weren't sitting on the shelf, or that when you said, "Oh, you got a bad fuel pump relay," you didn't have another one to test.
Yep.
So to say that, you had to fix it and hope that did fix the problem, because other than that, you're talking back then that was a couple $100. Today, I couldn't even imagine what the stuff costs.
Yeah.
For that car. And I worked on Porsches and Audis, so that was a little bit of a different breed. That wasn't your normal Chevrolet with parts laying around.
Right.
There's a guy I watch. It's called Maple Motors. He's in Tennessee. It's a used car lot, but most of his stuff is all hot rods. Okay. That people that they buy, and you can tell the guy doing the videos doesn't really know the cars. And he even said the guys before me, they run through them in the shop, make sure they're safe to drive, and I do the test drive and the walk around. And he has a lot of information wrong, but he's had a couple of 95, 96 Impalas. I happen to own one of them, the Impala SS, and he was complaining that the odometer on this car was flaky. Like, I don't know why, but it's not giving me any reading. Something's wrong. Or now it's showing me like 1, and it wasn't incrementing, and I knew what the problem was. I fixed it on my car 20 years ago. So I wrote him in the comment. I said, dude, this was when these cars were, mine was only a few years old. I said, literally, you drop the bottom dash panel, you pull a cluster out, and you get to the back of that connector, and you just retouch the solder connectors. I said, they had bad solder connectors from the factory. Yep. I said, Bink, mine's been lit. It's been fine ever since. And he was like, well, I don't know how many people are going to be able to get into that kind of a job. Like, it's about 4 screws.
Yeah, it's not that hard.
6 screws and a soldering iron. But Kenny, it goes to like you did something a few weeks ago, which I've showed this to people, and they're always amazed. Using a test light to verify ground.
Yeah.
And you said it the perfect way. Like people say, but no, it shows me when there's power. Well, if there's power, there's got to be ground.
Yeah.
So you just reverse the dopey thing.
Yeah, loop the wire. That's all you got to do. And it's amazing how many people have a problem with that.
I agree. But those are the things that I guess, I don't like. How did I learn that? I don't know where. I don't remember when I learned that. It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
So it seems like second nature. So I understand that people don't think of it because they're not in that world. But I don't know. Some stuff doesn't seem like too far of a stretch. I don't know.
Well, as long as you have ground, a good ground, just not the wrench laying on the floor, the test light will work.
Brian, tell him about that. Tell him like what Brian's.
I had a guy, and one thing I do love about my job, and I love to help people. I like to be a problem solver. There's a tool to do the job right. I understand everybody can't afford the right tool to do the job, but there is. But I had a guy, he bought a test light, old school test light, had a bulb, nothing fancy, none of this digital stuff or anything like that. And he comes back and says, man, this thing doesn't work. And I was like, okay, well, maybe the bulb broke. So I changed the bulb. I said, it doesn't work. So I said, all right, well, show me what you're doing. And walked into the car, and car's sitting there, and he has a door open, and he hooks the wrench. He hooks the test light to a wrench that's sitting on the carpet of the floor of the car. He goes, I have this to ground, but it's hooked to metal, and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So I had to at least try to explain that he has to hook it to the ground to the car. Just because it's hooked to metal, it's not hooked to ground. He was halfway there, but, these are things, even the simplest, you got to understand how it works.
Yes, absolutely.
You can't make that up.
And not everybody's going to understand it. This industry is not for everybody.
No.
It is for people like us. For select people.
Certainly not for everybody. That's for darn sure. So I'll tell you what it is for us. It's the bottom of the hour, so we have to take care of some business. And I have to relate the fact that our WHPC weather forecast is powered by Pantano's with locations in Hewlett, Uniondale, Garden City Park, Freeport, now open in Levittown. Today's forecast, I think Rob had it right. Rain. Rain, more rain. And it's going to rain again. And it'll probably rain through the night. And tomorrow's going to be some rain. And I think Tuesday was going to be nice. So listen to the station Tuesday, like you should anyway, and you'll see that it's going to be a nice forecast. So bleak for today. Also, on weekdays, if you find yourself free, you want to listen to the Nassau Mix. It's the best of music from 2K through today, featuring the hit songs you know and some deeper album cuts from artists you already love, with a focus on up-and-coming hits before they are hits. We're making hits at WHPC. Brian, is there anything that we might want to talk about for an honor group of the hour today? What do you think? Can we do Chris's job for him?
Well, let's see here. I was thinking about that, and I thought we get into the check engine light. Our famous check engine light. If your dashboard looks like a Christmas tree with all kinds of lights and you spend more time and money trying to cover it up or take the light bulbs out instead of getting it checked, you could be one of our honor group members.
Oh, that's a good one. That's, I kind of like that. That's very good. That's the thing, Chris.
I know more people spend more time trying to get rid of a check engine light by figuring out how to take the bulb out and then just checking it out. So
right. Brian, that's the thing. I want to do something like that with. I was actually thinking about writing a chassis, an honor group of the hour, and I said, you know what? I ran out of time. I thought, maybe Brian will come up with something. Who knows? We'll. I don't know. But
you had got me thinking when we were talking about all the check engine light and scanners and goodies and all that stuff. So that's been sitting on the back of the noggin today.
Got it. All right. So with that, we're going to take our break. I'm going to play a little more music with Kenny in mind. And Kenny, the first bit I play is one of those little promo drops I was talking about. I don't know if you ever. There was a show on TV called. Oh boy, Dennis Pitzenbarger did the show. They would bring a car in. And they rated them. You brought them out to the West Coast, and they would rate it in real time on a lift, and they would give you kind of like an estimation of what that car was worth. Brian, you remember the name of that show that he did? It escapes you right now. It was pretty good. They did it for like 2 seasons. Dennis has done a few things, and now he's just drag racing his Camaro. But this is what I was explaining to Kenny. So we'll be back with more Motor Mouth Radio in just a minute. Keep it where you got it on 90.3 WHPC.
Dennis Pitzenberger from Sticker Shock, and if you're not listening to Motormouth Radio, boy, you are lost in the smoke of the burnout. Make sure to tune in each and every week because these guys are exactly what you want to hear. Real car guys, real talk, every single weekend.
This show on 90.3 WHPC is brought to you by CarStar Celebrity Chase Collision, with 2 locations in Limerick and Oceanside, who remind you that New York state law says you always have the right to choose which shop will fix your car. CarStar Celebrity Chase Collision offers a full range of services, 24-hour towing between Montauk and Manhattan, shuttle service, and they can help you with a rental car arrangement if needed. All repairs include the CarStar Lifetime Nationwide Warranty, ensuring that the experts at Celebrity Chase Collision are always on your side.
Y sí, hablamos español.
More information is available at 516-593-0920 or online at celebritychasecollision.com.
You're listening to the Motor Mouth.
Hey, Ray and Chris.
Did you guys read my mind?
Okay, I appreciate you having me on.
Wow, you guys finally figured it out.
Motor Mouth.
This is great. No more foolishness.
I miss my paisans.
You're a funny guy. I've been waiting for Sunday just to ask you guys this question.
Our trained staff of 2 will help.
Well, good afternoon, guys. I need a little advice.
All right, so you got me to call in. All right.
I don't know everything. You know, you guys are mechanics.
You guys have a great show. Thank you very much.
I come with a tale of woe and a warning for the younger guys.
Chris is doing jumping jacks. He's getting ready. Ray is right behind me.
Every time I get off the air, I think,
Motor Mouth.
Oh, boy, they're never going to ask me back after that one.
Yeah, this is a collect call. How are you?
Quite frankly, there are better things to do with your time.
Oh, I probably called the wrong number. I was trying to get a hold of Ray. And I wake up screaming.
So I'm very happy to listen to your good advice.
Yeah, I want to know what the is wrong with my car.
You know, break it down for us car guys.
All right, see you next weekend.
Motor Mouth.
I know you guys usually speak Guido,
Right.
and now you're talking Tinsel and Yiddish, and this morning I happened to listen to the rabbi on your station. So it's all, you know, I guess today's Yiddish then.
Right.
There are answers, sometimes correct ones, and we may have them.
Motormouth Radio, 90.3 FM, WHPC.
Motor Mouth.
Hey, you, get over here. Every Sunday, 12 to 1, you are going to tune in to hear the Motor Mouths, my friends Ray Guarino and Chris Switzer. 90.3 FM, WHPC. You might learn something.
I'm playing air guitar and drums in the studio. I got to admit. Brian, that was a great clavichord you were playing. I don't know how it fit into the song, but it was really good anyway. So, we're back. Motormouth Radio, Ray Guarino, Midas, Chris Switzer today, who's out on assignment. We have MatcoMan Brian pulling up the rear, and Kenny, Wrencher with Kenny, in the studio with us, talking about car concerns, 516-572-7440 if you want to get in on this. And just having fun and, you know, doing our thing. So, that was that. Where do we leave off? I don't remember where we left off. We were talking about Tool Tech, I think. But I have to remember, and I have to make notes because I have to go home and write a description of the show to upload for iHeartRadio and for Spreaker. The show goes all over the place. We go on, well, yeah, it's streamed everywhere. nccradio.org, it's on iHeart, it's on TuneIn, it's on Odyssey, it's on the WHPC app. Also, you can ask Alexa to play WHPC. I don't have that girl in my house.
No, me either.
I won't let her in, so no, she ain't here at my house. But
think about what Bob was just talking about.
Exactly, that's case in point. Yep. Right. So
definitely get in trouble.
Yes.
So one of the other things that comes up all the time that Kenny uses on his YouTube videos, Wrenching with Kenny again on YouTube, you should check that out, is he uses a scan tool. You know, and then you typically, Kenny, go to your Solus or your Launch.
Yep.
But you have some others, too. You have now this new brand, this Kingbolen line.
Yeah, the Kingbolen, which I believe they're interconnected with Launch somehow. I'm not quite sure. They reached out to me and asked if I would, use their product, basically review it. And I said I would, but I'm just doing it as I'll try it. If it's good, and I'll say so. If it's not good, I'm also going to say so. And that's kind of how we left it.
Right.
So.
I know, Brian, we were talking about this Thursday night on Playing in Traffic, and I told you that Kingbolen is now going to send me a scanner to check out, which I'm going to go through all the family cars. I'll take it down to the shop and have a ball. Because the interface looked okay, but Brian, you had a really interesting. I was telling my friend Kevin about the modality that the scanner you had there with you follows. Maybe you want to talk about that a little bit, because that's pretty cool too. This Matco scanner.
The one that. Yeah, I mean the Max Lite. The nice thing about this particular one is it's a regular scanner on steroids, because if you need to be bidirectional going into being bidirectional, then you can download the app for $22.50 a month, and then you can interface with the car. If you had to initialize or program anything that you're doing, you have that technology. Instead of spending $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 for stuff that you may never use or not need, this will do when you need it. And that's what I like. A lot of people get into buying a scanner and they only use half the ability of the scanner.
It's like a computer.
And that's one thing nice about what we offer at Matco.
It's like
pay as you go.
It's like any program on your computer or your phone. You only use a small fraction of it.
Absolutely.
Only the real geeks use the big stuff. But I thought about what you were saying with that, Brian, and I was telling my friend Kevin about that yesterday as we were talking. And then I realized why there was something about that idea that I really like it, but there was something I didn't like, and I didn't know what it was. I know what it is. Being a guy that likes to hoard stuff. I have all my albums. I have CDs. I like to have and hold my stuff. And I'm thinking, if I had a subscription, I'd say, now I don't have the airbag module, or now I don't have the oh damn, I feel like I was missing stuff. That's just my dopey head. I'm sorry.
But all it takes is a push of a button, and you have the most current and updated information there. And if you want to keep it, you can keep it and just pay the renewal fee every 30 days. But, like I said, for, with you, Kenny, you see a whole bunch of different vehicles. You have a whole bunch of stuff that comes in at one time. That's perfectly to have that type of a scanner that will read everything instead of that. But if you were just on the weekend kind of guy, or
Brian,
one or two cars, this is really good for guys at the dealership.
Brian, can I send this one in for? Can I send this one in for a reflash? You think you can help me with this one?
We got I was just figuring, unless you wanted to do the old paper clip. I know that doesn't really show up on the thing there.
It shows up better on your shirt than it did on your. Yeah.
Yeah, and of course I love the old
code retriever,
plug and play and count the lights.
Yep.
Right. This thing, when it came out, was like, whoa! This can do. This. I used to drive around with it in my car, reading the data, like, oh, what's the ECT? What's my map? The map sensor reading. Like, I'm reading the data, like, this is so cool. I could do this, like, as I'm driving. But the old Brainmaster 2000.
3215.
Oh, 32. Oh, sorry. I gave the 2000 to Chris, I think. All right. Oh, yeah, it's the 3215. Even have the operating strength from all tests. So, yeah, we talk about the lineage of how scanners have come from, from where they were. And it's the way the data stream is transmitted, too. Now we have CAN bus. Boy, I got notes in here from my Oldsmobile, and this is going back to the 80s. But you talk about now CAN bus technology, and... the cars really took after everything else that's computer controlled, and that's fast stuff. But,
and then of course it's like everything else. You get somebody involved. Back in the day, this was a great little scanner, and this right here was a OBD2 ABS. This was called a body shop scanner, because those guys dealt with ABS and check engines on wrecked cars, but the big guys realized, well, this was taking the sell away, because guys would just buy this if they just needed something with ABS.
Right.
So then, they took that away, and to get ABS stuff, you had to buy the big scanner. And that's why I like how we've gone to pay as you go, because you don't need all that information. I mean, if I was a technician today, and I know that I'm not working on Ferraris or Lamborghinis or even Mercedes,
Land Rover or whatever.
Why pay for all that information that you never touch?
Right.
So,
yeah, I agree with that. It makes sense. It makes complete sense. I'd rather pay as I go too, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it is a good format.
It's not every day that you're involved. I mean, like I said, a lot of guys will buy the biggest thing just to turn a light off and never use the function.
Well, right, just to clear the code, yeah.
Yes, I've seen people with scan tools and have no idea what they're actually doing. They just used it to clear codes. That's it.
Yeah.
Because they don't know how to do anything else with it.
Yeah, that's another thing. We get into scanner stories. I get guys that buy and they say, this doesn't work. And I said, what do you mean it doesn't work? And they say, well, it told me I needed an O2 sensor. And I put an O2 sensor in, I still have a code. And I'm like, okay, well, what did the data stream? Well, where are you? Is it rich? Is it running lean? Is it pulling out specs? What's that mean? So then you run into thing. And I've watched a few of your videos, and that's what I like. As in showing that people don't realize or understand just because it says this doesn't mean that's the problem.
Right.
And when you break it down and unfortunately you still have to diagnose the issue. You might even have to pull out the old test light and make sure that you have power or ground.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So
absolutely.
And then sometimes the test light is enough. You need like a bigger bulb connected to some wires for a better load, right?
I've run into that before. Where I light a test light, but it still won't work because it can't carry the amperage.
Right. It can pull a couple of milliamps, but it can't do amps.
Yep.
Or a larger load, right? And that's the stuff you learn through time.
Yep. Even still, I forget about it. I'll do something, and it's like, I realize that I forgot to test it another way, and by putting a heavy light bulb in there or something like that, and I realized that doesn't work. I was like, well, darn it! I was just about to put a window motor in it, because everything seemed to work.
Yeah.
So I still make mistakes. It happens. Right. What are you going to do?
So now that you've transitioned, we're at the last quarter of the show, so I gotta watch double time here.
Yeah.
Now that you've transitioned and you've moved to a new place and you had to set up a home shop like we all have, you had a tool issue where your majority of tools were in the regular shop and you had nothing at home.
Yeah, I had very little at home. I had one of those Harbor Freight Pittsburgh tool suitcases.
Yeah.
And I broke that out, but then I went and I spent some money at Harbor Freight because. Also, like a lot of my audience is do-it-yourself at-home guys. They're, unfortunately, they're not going to go on the Matco trucks, and they're not going to go, seeking out the better tools.
Yeah.
And I understand that, because they're on a budget. So I wound up going to Harbor Freight. I figured, this is my audience. I do have the Matcos and the Snap-ons at work, but I figure for home, I'm going to use this.
Which is kind of funny. I risk future retribution, but. Our good friend Tony DeFeo from
Uncle Tony.
Uncle Tony, yeah. You'll see Tony picking up a claw hammer to do an adjustment. I'm like, Tony, please, God, at least get a cheap ball peen. But hey, it works. It's gonna hammer. It's gonna do the job.
It gets the job done.
There's nothing wrong with a claw hammer that way. That's also a seal puller. It's okay.
You're right. You could get some, especially if you have a claw hammer with one claw broken off. And you can tailor that claw to be a good seal. It's actually a lot of leverage.
It's good for getting valve covers off too.
Yeah. Very true. Very true. Yeah, it's funny. Well, now Matco came out with those little pocket pry bars. We were talking about them Thursday night. They're only like 3 inches long, Brian. You probably have one right there. Not the screwdrivers. Oh wait,
that's the pocket pry bar.
I'm sorry. It looks a lot bigger on camera. That's only about 3 or 4 inches.
Okay.
Literally, you stick it in your shirt pocket. It's this big.
This is the new. They have a 3-piece set. I don't have a 3-piece with us, but that's the straight one.
Yeah.
And most guys still like the old school pocket pry bars. And that's why they came out with that because guys were still bending them up. And so this is a little bit beefier, but it's about the same thing. Doesn't have the magnetic tip though. So
please, Brian sent me some of those. It's the little technician screwdriver, the thin one, but it's got a magnet on it. I was working on my wife's car at the shop, and I picked that up to grab something, And just bringing it across the front of the car, it picked up a T35 or there it is. Brian's holding it now. Like a T35 or T40 Torx bit that I had just bought and then like flung it and I lost it in the car. It's gone forever. Like that damn magnet. That thing is always picking up other stuff. What do you get?
It's actually, if you look, it's actually the pocket pry bar, or the one Matco did was a little bit smaller than the old pocket ones.
Yes, but that magnet is unbelievably strong. It is
for such a little tiny magnet. It is
unreal. That is good. So
when we a lot of guys say when they get in and out of cars, they'll come out and it'll stuck to the door frame of the car. They lose it.
So it's like all the battery-powered lights that Brian finds like at night under cars, people driving around with this weird illumination. Oh, there's another $200 light. There's a $100 light. You know?
Yeah, it's crazy.
It is. It's
crazy
those little
stuff.
pocket screwdrivers, though, too. You use them underneath the hood, and I've done it to myself. It winds up sticking to something standing straight up, and you stab yourself with it.
Yeah.
Because you accidentally put your arm into it or your hand into it.
Yeah.
It happens.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Some cars... So I like working on older cars. There's more shelf space.
Yes.
By the radiator to put your stuff. Newer cars, yeah.
And newer cars are all plastic under there, so there's really no place to put like a magnetic tray or anything.
Right. Yeah. Well, Matco has some stuff. You have the fender cover, right? There's a magnetic cover. I think you guys.
Oh yes, yeah, I've seen that.
That's pretty good. Yeah. That's you got to see what you like. So, also with that, I want to touch on Diesel. Right. You have a new member of the family at home.
Yes. Yeah, a little kitty cat named Diesel.
Found a little cat in the yard. Dog said, "Hey, what's that?"
Yeah, my grandkids were running around the house and they found this little kitten in the grass. No mother around, no nothing. So we brought him inside, and we kept an eye on him at first to see if Mom was going to come back.
Yeah.
Mom never came back, so we took him in so he didn't get exposed or whatever.
Yeah.
And no, he's doing good. And of course, we have Gigi, who's a pit bull, and she's never been around cats before, so she was having a little bit of a hard time with it. But now she's gotten used to him being around, and we figure he's probably about 6 weeks old now.
Yeah, she looks small. Yeah, tiny.
But yeah, he's a cutie.
Yeah.
He's a cutie.
I didn't get into brake bleeding strategies. I want to talk to you about, because I know you did a video, and that's one of the things that I've kind of become known for is like brake work and brake bleeding. That's kind of, I have a Harbor Freight bag that's like stuffed with all the brake bleeding stuff, because not one thing doesn't always work on any vehicle.
Right.
You got to go through sometimes 2, 3, 4, or hopefully you get a gravity bleed, which is nice, but not always.
It doesn't always work. No.
But yeah, so we'll get that another time. But we will, like I said, we do. Brian and I are part of this Playing in Traffic show that was Lou's. Lou left. He left the show how many years ago, Brian?
5, 6.
Yeah.
5.
He brought me in as like a consultant, an electrical consultant, because he said, "Hey, Ray, relays, right? Those that black science that oh yeah." I said, "I understand relays." He goes, "Well, how would you like to come on and just be like answer the calls?" Because guys, they send in questions about electrical stuff, and I don't know. Lou's a welder and a fabricator.
Right.
I said, "Yeah, sure, I'll do that." Well, it's like it's I think it's 7 or 8 years now that I'm there, and Lou has gone on to do other things. He does his show now on Wednesday nights.
Yeah.
So Brian and I and Lewis are part of the Thursday night. I'll send you the information. I'd love to get you on.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we'll play in traffic.
I do that all the time.
I know. It gets to be fun. So, Brian, what else you got? What else got cooking this week? Anything good?
Just trying to dry out. I mean, we got all the rain from that storm that came through the depression there, the tropical depression, and it's moving out, heading your way. You'll have that for the next couple days.
Yeah, we have it. We got it now.
Try to dry out. Actually, believe it or not, I'll give a little heads up here. I am going out to Harbor Freight here in a little bit to round up a few people, and we'll see what that leads to.
I mean, that makes so much sense, because guys, when they leave a job, and Brian's seen this too, where a guy, you go into a shop and hey, there's an empty spot. Where's Carlos?
Yep.
Or whoever, or Bill? Oh, yeah, gone. And you go to another shop and you see, that toolbox looks familiar. It's like, you got a new guy? Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm going to talk to him.
Yeah, John Carlos.
Yeah. And then you know who it is. So, Brian makes some good scores that way. So, but the funniest was...
Yeah.
Go on, Brian.
So, Kenny, what's your range of vehicles? I mean, are you doing stuff that's 20 years old, or are you staying up with something that's 10 years old or even newer? I mean, are you just all over the place?
I'm all over the place pretty much. I work on whatever comes my way to an extent. I try to stay away from a lot of the higher-end European cars if I can, only because I haven't been around them enough.
Don't we all?
And but it seems like in the shop, we're kind of like a general repair shop, and it seems like we get up to about a 2017, 2018 type vehicles, and we'll work on, the GMs, the Fords, the Chryslers, the Hyundais, the Kias, the Toyotas, the Nissans. That's what you normally see out in traffic. That's normally what we get in. That's the common vehicles.
Yeah.
So... But yeah, that's kind of where I kind of...
Yeah, like I said, it's funny. I have guys that have gone on, like I said, they've left the dealership to say, and I only work on one car because that's all they've done.
Yep.
And that's usually, you can get away with that, but, some guys that had a Toyota, let's just say, you worked at a Toyota dealership and it was a Toyota, well, they might have a Honda or a Ford, and they're like, hey, why can't I bring my car to you? So some of these guys get in trouble because they don't open up the horizon. I just didn't know if you were specific in one line or kind of anything that moved.
Kind of anything that moved. I want to try to get back into the older cars. It's I kind of got away from it for a while, with kids and everything else, and now that the kids are all adults and out of the house, and we moved and have a house now, it's just kind of like I want to get back into the hot rods and everything else.
And I can tell you've had a couple of good days like me because your hands are clean and so are mine. I'm like, it's like they're actually, you can see the flesh.
Yeah. Yeah, because usually that dirt's embedded.
Yeah. Oh yeah. One night. It was a couple of years. I was working on my car, and I came in and I washed up, having dinner. And my daughter said, "Dad, aren't you going to wash your hands?" And my wife said, "You don't know your father too well, do you?" She goes, "He washed his hands. Didn't you see him?" She goes, "Well, I saw him by the sink, but look at his hands." And she's like, "That it'll take a while for that. A few days that'll." I said, "Yeah." I said, "As the flesh leaves,
Yep, and that's exactly what happens.
Grease goes with it." Yeah.
Some of it's there for life, though. I tell you that.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, there's a roadmap. There's some scars and some crazy stuff in there. So
I love the Ratfink stuff.
Yeah, that's that. Brian just put that in last week. We were commenting on your Ratfink post, Brian.
Yeah,
and that's my car. That's cool.
That's Ray's goat there. So
yeah. Matco partnered. Matco now, right? You own the rights to Ratfink, correct?
Well, we don't own it, but we do a lot of stuff for Ratfink.
Okay.
We have actually, like, we just had the 70 CUDA.
Nice,
cool.
Oh, he's on the roof. Cool.
Yeah, he's on the roof, going and so forth. But we have a line. We have T-shirts, hats, and all that good stuff with the Ratfink. So
and I was gonna say, if you want any Matchbox stuff, Brian has thousands.
Awesome.
Yeah, we do a lot of we show off our little car collections on Thursday nights too. Because guys have toys, you want to have toys. You never get too old for that.
No.
So, yeah. All right, so Kim is going to be coming in a second. We're going to have to be wrapping. Kenny, I thank you for coming in on your vacation.
Well, thanks for having me.
Anytime you're in the area, you're welcome to come in, and you can always come in virtually with us. We'd love to have you as a guest. I'll give you that info too. We'll set you up, and then we'll set you up with Thursday because it's. I love having guys in that I know, are bona fide. It really just adds.
And we're New Yorkers too.
And we're New Yorkers too is right, right. Yeah, that was the other thing. I like the stories. I like, when you were talking about stories from when you were back like in high school on like 684 and 84. I did all my motorcycle riding up there, so I'm very well versed in those roads. I'm like, I know where he was. That's some good places. Good stuff.
Brian, it was a pleasure.
Oh, it was awesome talking to you, and good luck, and keep making the videos, and stay out of trouble, And if you stumble across and need anything, Ray can always get you in touch with me.
Yes,
I already gave him your phone number, your name, your number, and your email address. So
awesome.
And Brian can
problem.
You can text him, or you can call him, whatever you want to do, and he'll take care of you. So that's it. That's good. All right, guys. Thanks again. We'll be back next week with Chris. He'll be back in, and we may have Carl Anthony. I think he's due for a visit, so we may get Carl back in from Automoblog. And now that Kim is here saying, what the heck is this? There's tools on the bench. We're having fun.
I'm used to it.
Right. So that's it, guys. Motormouth Radio wrapped. We're out for another one. Brian, what do I tell the people waiting for you in the parking lot?
Don't follow them home.
Right.
Unless you got a sandwich.
Yeah. Or not Mac or Ratchet. All right. We'll see you next week. For MatcoMan Brian, Wrenching with Kenny. Don't forget to check him out on YouTube. Ray Guarino, Motormouth Radio, 90.3 WHPC. Out.